Hi guys, welcome back to the shop. Hey, today I'm going to jump back on the 90 Twin. I've kind of got it back to where it was the last time you saw it assembled. So today I'm going to get the engine in. We're probably going to work on the carbs again. I've got gaskets for them. We'll go ahead and clean them up good and try to get the gaskets in to stop the leak around the two halves. And just kind of a general whatever I haven't got assembled, assemble, and we'll see how far we can get. So let's get with it. Before we get started on this, I'm going to take you around and just show you some of the stuff that I'm working on in respect to this bike, just to so you can see what the process is, and then we'll get on to this. Okay, as you can see, I've got we worked on this. I did a video on polishing the hub, spoking up the front wheel, getting the tire on, and I've gone ahead and put the wiring harness back in, got the forks on, got the rear tire. I got it on there, and I laced up the wheel off camera. It's just like the front one. The only difference was I had to get the spokes from Buchanan's. But I have done some plating, so the silver looking stuff have been replated. A lot of it was just so rusty. So that's kind of what you got to do. And that was a one whole day just plating up everything that needed it. And I've got a lot of new hardware that I'm also going to put in. You know, I really don't want to plate like washers and nuts unless they're special, you know, a special nut or a special washer or something, and then I'll do that. But you know, the plating just never turns out as good as the new stuff. But when you have you know, special stuff like this rod, like all the connectors, the nuts and whatnot that's on it, you can't source those anywhere else, so you're going to have to do something with them to get them back in service, and that's what we're doing. And the engine, you saw me build that up. We've got the top end all back on it, so we're going to raise this up, put it back in the frame, then work on the carburetors. This chain guard, I've got a place right here where evidently its chain got loose or it was out of alignment, so it's kind of eating through it. Not sure how I'm going to repair that yet. It's going to involve welding of some sort and then grinding back down. So I think that's about the extent of the damage on that. I'm not going to get into painting the cases or anything yet, because I still want to take it out and just see how it runs. I may have to pull off the clutch side. Clutch may be stuck, I don't know. So we'll have to see. So I just thought I'd hold off on that. I've still got a seal coming here. I can go ahead and, it's actually probably easier to do that with it bolted in the frame, because it when you're trying to pop it out, you need to apply some pressure. So I think that'll work just fine being in the frame. That should be here maybe today. Anyhow, we're gonna work on getting this thing reassembled, and let's go up here to the front. And I've got the carburetor sitting here, and you can see how they've been leaking. And I think most of it's around the gasket area there. So I've got some new gaskets, and we'll go ahead and run this through the cleaner. We'll do the aluminum cleaner to try to brighten them up a little bit and get everything back together on that. We're waiting on the seals so we can get the electronics put back on. I had to order a brake rod or a brake lever. This one evidently was bent in the accident, and I could kind of straighten that out, but I'm afraid that it may be cracked in here. And with a brake item like that, I just didn't want to chance it. So I found an NOS one. And I'm working on the levers here. I think you've probably seen me do this before. I put them in my vibrator here to polish everything up. And they basically ran all last night. And, you know, they've got quite a ways to go, but they're getting there. You know, it's just all the stuff that is kind of behind the scenes that you don't see, that maybe other people can use the idea or something like that. I just use the walnut holes to initially polish this, and then eventually, when I think that it's gotten about as good as it's going to do in that, I'll go to the corncob media, and that will finish the polishing on that. And this is how they were, okay? So if you, I guess it'd be better to compare them. So you can see that it makes quite a bit of difference. This one here was a broken one. The bottom was broken out of it, probably in the crash. So I was able to source another one. So that's how they were, and this is how they are now, just with one night in the vibrator. So it does help. And I've got the aluminum polish, not polish, brightener, cleaner. So we'll be getting the carbs in there. All right, let's get this engine lifted up and see if we can get it back in the frame where it belongs. This is how I took it out. I don't know how this is going to work, but it worked pretty slick getting it out. No, I think maybe it might. If it does, it sure beats brute force and picking it up and all that stuff. Just this engine is, you know, it's just built a little different because it's you know, not a full tube frame. You can't do it, of course, on some of the other ones. Actually, I think I'm going to have to, I got to get this here on too, so I've got to put the top bolt in, and then that'll probably hold it to get the foot pegs on. There's that one. And we'll just get a nut on that one to kind of hold it while we get the other one in place. I think you can see here that the foot peg and side stand assembly needs to go right in here. So I'm just going to hang the engine off of this bolt. I don't think it'll go too far. I'll go ahead and pull that one out and get this out of the way, and then we can get that up there. Hopefully it will. Actually, maybe I should put this front engine stay on. That's probably what I ought to do. Okay, what did I do with those bolts? Got the one up here at the engine, or at the steering head. Now on the model that was imported into this country, this would have been chrome. But on this engine, it's black. Or with this bike anyway. All right, that makes sense there. That way it shouldn't go anywhere. It should stay in position. Yeah, that worked pretty good. As you can see, this is uses that same bolt to go in here to hook all this up. So, got to have that in place before we install that bolt. And you can kind of see over here, you gotta tap up on that to get the bolt on through. And that supports this side of it also. Got a washer and a lock washer and a nut. And we'll have another bolt that goes into the front. And then of course all our hardware. Okay. And I had to do a lot of bending to this brake pedal, and I think I'm going to have to bend on it some more because it's, once I straighten the pin that goes on it here, that goes through, then this thing is kind of bent over towards the oil pump here. So I'm going to have to do some bending on it now to make up for what I did over here. It's almost better to do that on the bike, but I may see if I can tweak this a little bit, because I think it's a little close, before I put it on. Yeah, let me try that. All right, did a little tweaking on that, and I think it's probably better. It may need some more, but as of right now, it looks like it's going to clear over here okay. It comes up against the bottom and stop, and when the rubber foot peg is on, I don't know, we'll see. May have to lower it a little bit. We'll see. I think I can do that on the bike though, so I'll go ahead and punch this thing through. Yeah, you know what I forgot to do though is put the little grease on it. Let me do that. And I thought before I mount that, I better get this brake rod in there. It's kind of hard to get to. So the spring is attached actually to the muffler. So I'm not sure how that's going to be when we get ready to get in there. But anyhow, we've got this one taken care of. And I'll go ahead and shove that back through again. Yeah, that would have been tough getting that cotter pin in there, I believe. Now that thing is, they had bent on it a little bit too, but I think maybe it needs to be that way. This arm here, it was kind of bent toward the back, and I think it needs to be that way in order to clear the swing arm there. So go ahead and get the E-clip back in position there. There we go. All right. Yeah, the spring goes right here in this hole and connects to a hole in the muffler. I think I'll be able to do that when I'm putting the muffler on, but this would have been difficult. Another thing that's kind of strange is this, where this brake stay is there, that has got a spring under it, and the washer is actually tightened down all the way with this nut, and then a cotter pin goes into it. But I guess it allows it a little bit of movement. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cotter pin in there, but down here I'm going to leave this loose because I don't know where the chain is going to be adjusted to yet, and you've got to loosen this to get everything to, to move it for the chain. So I'll go ahead and put the cotter pin in on the top. Now another thing that I've ran into on this in various places are some of these screws, and they're not a, you would think this would be a 5mm 0.80, and they're not. They're 90, which I found out is an obsolete thread pitch, but you can still get a tap and die. And matter of fact, I do have the tap and die for that, but that doesn't do you any good, and you can't get the screws anymore. So what I did was I went ahead and just ran a tap through them for 80 pitch, and it seems to be okay. There's about 6 of them, I think. This is the first one I ran into here. This is where the brake light switch hooks up, and these wires here just you kind of pull this. I'm sure this is easier said than done, but you pull this down, and I've already got them tinned, and shove those in, and then let the pressure back off the spring, and we'll see if we can get the other one done too. Yep, okay, it cooperated with me. I'm just going to trim that off just a little bit. But anyhow, that was something that I had to kind of do some research. From what I understand, in '67, they did away with the 90 pitch. I've got to get a screwdriver here. This was 2 other areas that those screws had to be changed, and there was one more right here, and there was one on the chain guard itself. I think that's all of them I've run into so far. Now I've got one more bolt here to put in for the kickstand and all that stuff here, the foot pegs. So we'll get that in, and I've got this was another piece that I had to, it was pretty rusty, and I went ahead and replated it in zinc, and I believe it goes right there, and I believe the chain guard goes onto that, or maybe it's the case. It's the case. So this wire goes through there. Of course, this is going to go up here to the neutral switch, and this is all your magneto stuff. So maybe a little premature putting this piece on there, but one thing I did too was I just found a grommet that looked like it would work, and so far it does. It goes right there, because you can't get that one anymore. This is a Yamaha grommet off the Enduro for like the battery box and that sort of stuff. There's many of them on there. That seems to work good, and that will bolt onto the case. I'm sure it's going to fall off many times between now and then. Let me get a socket for that. All right, now go ahead and get these engine mounts tightened up, and then I think we'll go over and start work on the carburetors. Okay, before I get into these carburetors, I just was thinking about something here. I had a viewer that saw me struggling with the cabling when I was building the throttle cable, I believe. And remember, if you've been watching, I was cutting them off with my cutoff wheel and taping them and all that stuff. And he said, hey, listen, there's a better way. And he stepped up and got me a set of these Felco C7. And I tell you what, they are very good at this. Look at that, nice, clean, not a strand out of place. This is really if you do much of this cabling, that is a really sweet tool. And I just wanted to thank Matt for thinking of me. He picked one up, and I tell you, it works slicker than anything I've ever seen. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. While I was plating stuff the other day, I went ahead and plated the clamps for the breather hose next that goes on the carburetor, and that was another place I ran into those 90 pitch. And again, I just tapped those to 80, and everything works just fine. It's not a big deal. Also ran the choke lever and rod and all this stuff through the plater and gave it the chromate finish like I did with the clamps. Not sure whether these had that or not. I think they were just probably natural zinc, but I kind of like that, and I just went ahead and plated them the way the choke levers are. So anyhow, you can see here where I've had a lot of seepage and the oil. I knew when I took these apart when we first started it that it was going to need some help. You can see it just leaking all over. This is all pre-mixed stuff. So I'm going to take these back apart and clean them up again and put the new gaskets in and hope that that will fix the issue. And at the same time, I'm going to run these through the aluminum brightener and see if I can get those to look a little better than they are. That usually helps quite a bit. I've got another carburetor up here that I don't know whether you saw it or not, but it's this is one I'm working on, a 72 to 73, I think, the ones that were painted black. And I may go ahead and dump those at the same time, or dunk those or that one while I'm cleaning these up, because that black paint just, I bead blasted off what I could. It just doesn't want to come off, so maybe the acid will do it. But we've already had these apart, and I just think those gaskets are beyond repair. And I just wanted to check to see if the floats were sucking up anything. And if you remember right, it was very crusty inside, but it doesn't leak. So hopefully we'll be okay there. But I think that for the most part, this gasket is the culprit. It's just hard and brittle. So let me get this, let me finish taking it apart here. If I could find some better carburetors, I'd probably do it. They're really eat up here, but I really don't want to spend. I've seen some on there for on eBay for 250 bucks, and you don't even know what the inside looks like. So that kind of stuff I always steer kind of clear of. When I sell carburetors, I think I've mentioned this before, I always take them completely apart, take pictures of them, completely apart so that you know that you can get the pilot jet and all that and everything else loose, and you're not buying something that will never work because it's all messed up. So if you're a seller on eBay or something and you do carburetors or anything that you can take apart, I just recommend that it's so much nicer to be able to see it all apart so you know that there aren't any strip threads and everything will go back together. But here we are, we've got this one completely broke down. I'm going to get it back into the cleaner, and I'll take the other one apart, and we'll get everything cleaned up and ready to go back on the bike. Okay, I've got the carburetor tore down and put into the brightener, and you can kind of watch and you can start seeing the foaming. So it's doing it more on the float bowl than anything right now. So you don't want to leave it in there too long. Kind of keep an eye on it and have you some fresh water to rinse it in, and because it is a mild acid. And I'm watching particularly because I don't know what it's going to do to this phenolic insert. I don't want that to be eaten up. So I'm just going to take it a little bit, put a little in there, and take it out and look at it and feel it and make sure that it's doing okay. But you can see the agitation starting now. So this works pretty good usually. All right, let's get these things put back together. Get my pilot jet in first. Again, it's these hollow ground screwdrivers, the only way to go. Everything's very small, just like everything else we've been working on this thing. Really small. What do you think how that aluminum brightener brightened this this casting up? Really does help. Let's see here. I was kind of worried about these floats. A lot of times these things will, they'll get holes in them or whatever, and they'll actually let fuel into them, and then they weight it down, so they cause problems that way. But seems like not the case. Now, I just looked up online, or not online, but in my manual, and it's telling me that we're going to measure from the top of the float to the gasket surface, and it should be 24 millimeter plus or minus 1. Looks like we got just, oops, I'm pushing on it a little bit. Maybe I need to lower it just a little bit. All right. Let's see, how am I going to get to that? A little screwdriver, maybe. So I believe if I lift that tang just a little bit, that should lower it. Yep, I believe we're good there. All right, and all I did was I took 24 millimeters and just transferred it to my little T-square here. All right, then we need our gasket. Sure hoping this is gonna fix things, and I hope they fit. A lot of times these things, aftermarket stuff, just doesn't fit. I can kind of see some, looks like the, you'll see it's not wanting to exactly fit into the casting. It probably will. Just push it in there after the thing goes, you know, the float bowl goes on, but you want to make sure that, see, it's just not wanting to. So I've got it set down in there, and now it's kind of puckered up here. But I think you just got to watch this aftermarket stuff. But you know, that's all you can get. And I'm looking at this hole and this hole doesn't exactly line up for the screws, but it's what we've got. So when we start putting them in, it should straighten it up, hopefully. All right. Not the best looking stuff here, but it's all we've got. Make sure that float bowl sets down. See, it's kind of wanting to. Okay, that looks good. Like it's setting down inside all these little surfaces here. Gently pull it down to. I like to get my oil on there. I'm gonna be on the lookout for a set of carbs, I think. But there again, you know, you want to be able to see inside, because the float bowls that's the major problem here. And you know, if you pick up another set, they're likely to be the same way, and that's not what you want. You don't want to spend good money for something that you've already got. I'm just looking here to make sure everything's pulling down like it should. Okay, I think we're good. All right. Let's see. Need spring. For the pilot. I checked these when I was taking it out. We had them set at 3/4 of a turn the last time, so we're just going to run that down till it stops and back it out 3/4. And let's see, I've got all these extra parts up here, and I'm wondering, gee, did I put all that stuff in? Another carburetor worth there. Okay, I think I'm cool. Right, this one, I'll have to figure out which carburetor is which here. It doesn't really matter. The adjustments are all in the same place, but the thing that does matter is where the bolt goes. So if I put it over here, then it needs to be the right carburetor, so you can get to it. So we'll just play like this one's the right one. And let's see, let's get the right one would be this one. So we'll have, we got the little lock washer that goes in here, falls down into that little groove with a tang, and then fits just like that. And of course that little thing wants to move on you. Doesn't do any good if it doesn't set down into that little hole, little groove. Did it go? I think so. And that would be the 12. Okay. Then we bend over the tab a little bit right there. So that looks like that should be everything for that side. Okay. So I'll go ahead and get the other one built up. Okay, there they are, all put back together. And we'll go over and see if we can get them on the bike now. I'm sure that the boots are going to be kind of hard. It's not a real bad boot, but it is harder than normal, so I may have a little trouble getting that on. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to be. I mean, they're semi-pliable. I may have to heat it a little bit. I put this in hot water for quite a while when I cleaned it, and it did seem to soften it up some. But we'll just have to see. I'll get on the other side and I'll try to get this one on first. Just going to kind of hold that up. See if I can get these started. Looks like I may need to loosen this up a little bit. There. And I'm going to try to put the clamps on afterwards. Look at that. Okay, so far so good. The clamps, you can usually pull them, kind of spread them apart, get them around the boot. Again, I'm just going to try to hold this down. This one's a little tighter. Well, looks like we did okay, maybe. All right. Well, let's see how I do then with the clamps. I just kind of spread them apart. Let's see, should they be under? I think maybe. Yeah, I think so. And just kind of get this up where you can get to it to get everything started, and then you can always move it back down to tighten it. I don't know where they're supposed to go, whether they go up, the bolt screw goes up or down, but I'm putting it down. Go ahead and get our clamp. Looks like it's oriented about straight up. So that looks good. Well, that looks pretty nice. Kind of like that chromate finish. Kind of dig it. It's good. Okay, see, the boot wasn't even on it when I got the bike. All of that stuff was torn off already because he'd gone in and cut all the electrical wires. But yeah, it looks pretty nice. Looks a lot shinier than it did. So I got the seal, so I'm going to go ahead and jerk that out and replace it. And that may be all I've got time for with this one. But let me get set up to do that. All right, let's see if we can get in there. We want to verify it's a 2048. And we have a 2048. Looks right. I'm just going to drill a little hole here in it. And I've got a little slide hammer that I made. I use this for a lot of things, but I'm not sure whether this hole's big enough for this, but we'll try it. May have to drill it a little bigger. Okay, there we go. Popped right out. It's the old one. It's got a metal piece in it, so you've got quite a bit of meat in order to get to it there, or to hold it. And let me get some rags there to kind of wipe that up, and we'll get ready to put that in. All right, let's get this cleaned up. I've just got some lacquer thinner and Q-tip. Some nasty stuff in there. Sure want to clean it the best that you can. And actually, you've got a lot of accessibility there. And by using lacquer thinner, you're going to remove the oil, which is going to make it easier, or make it better for the sealant to seal. I always use a little black RTV, just like when I build engines. Get in there and clean that crankshaft too. Use a little lacquer thinner on that also, just to try to get as much crap out of there as I can. All right. Okay, the next thing we want to do is get a little bit of RTV. Use this sparingly, and you want to put it toward the outside because the seal will push it in. You don't want a bunch of it in there, next to your bearing. Yeah. Get that extra out of there, because you don't need that going up in there. Okay, then take your seal. I've got to get some oil here. And just take and get you a little oil on your seal. Spread it around a little bit and put a little on your crankshaft too. That'll help facilitate it going in. All right. Just easily. These usually just press in. You don't have to do much. Just try to keep it going in kind of straight. Now I've got something here that's just about the right size. And with a plastic hammer, just kind of tap it in. There, that looks good. Clean off your excess. And there you go. New seal. Yeah, feels good. It's just flush with the casting. Okay guys, I think that's about all we got time for today, but rest assured we'll be getting another video up to try to get finished up with the engine, getting the electronics back on it, and well, getting closer to firing it up. It's I don't know whether I can get it done in the next video or not, but we'll see what we can do. So hey, thanks for going along on the ride, and we'll see you next video.